3,000 feet beneath the surface, where sunlight has never penetrated and the weight of the ocean could crush a human in seconds, something moves through the darkness. Not swimming, not hunting, just drifting, like a ghost caught between worlds. Its body glows with an otherworldly light, pulsing in patterns that shouldn't exist in a place where nothing should survive. 8 webbed arms spread like a tattered cloak, lined with pale spines that catch the faint bioluminescence of distant creatures. 2 enormous eyes, blood red in some lights and ice blue in others, stare into the eternal night. This is Vampiroteuthis infernalis, the vampire squid from hell. And against all logic, against every rule of biology we thought we understood, it thrives in the most hostile environment on Earth. Chun stood aboard the research vessel Valdivia, staring at something he couldn't explain. The expedition had been controversial from the start. Most scientists of the era believed in the abyssus theory, the idea that nothing could possibly live below 1,800 feet. The pressure, they argued, would be too great, the darkness too complete, the oxygen too scarce. Life, they insisted, had limits. But Chun and his colleagues believed otherwise. They equipped their ship with specialized nets and collecting jars, laboratories built into the hull, equipment designed to bring specimens up from depths never before explored. As they traced the coast of Africa and ventured into the Indian and Antarctic Oceans, they pulled up creatures that rewrote the rules of possibility. And then, from the lightless depths near the Cape of Good Hope, they hauled up something that looked like it had crawled out of a nightmare. It was small, no larger than a football, with a body like black velvet. 8 arms connected by webbing so dark it seemed to absorb light. Spines along the undersides like fangs, and eyes, enormous globular eyes that gleamed with an unearthly pallor, as if they had been staring into the abyss for so long they had become part of it. Chun, a trained teuthologist with decades of experience studying cephalopods, initially classified it as an octopus. But something was wrong. It had features that didn't fit, structures that shouldn't exist. Years later, he would realize his mistake and create an entirely new taxonomic order just for this creature, Vampiromorphidae, a lineage so ancient, so fundamentally different from anything else alive that it stood alone in the tree of life. What Chun didn't know, what nobody could have known at the time, was that he was looking at a living fossil, a ghost from a world that had vanished 300 million years ago. In the Carboniferous period, when the first forests were spreading across the land and giant insects ruled the skies, the ancestors of the vampire squid were already swimming through ancient seas. Back then, they were different. Fossil discoveries from Montana and France have revealed that early vampiromorphs were fierce hunters with 10 functional arms, powerful suckers strong enough to pry ammonoids from their shells, and muscular bodies built for speed. They were predators in a world teeming with armored prey. One remarkable fossil, Silipsimopodi bideni, preserved in Montana shale dating back 328 million years, shows a creature with all 10 arms intact, each lined with suckers. This wasn't the gentle scavenger we know today. This was an ambush predator, a mid-level carnivore that likely hunted brachiopods, bivalves, and small fish in the shallow waters of prehistoric seas. Another fossil, Vampironossa rhodonica, found in the Ardèche region of France and dating to 164 million years ago, reveals even more. Using high-resolution microcomputed tomography, scientists discovered preserved soft tissues showing powerful muscles and sophisticated hunting adaptations. These ancient vampiromorphs were built to kill.
So what changed? Why did a lineage of efficient hunters abandon the surface waters and become passive drifters in the abyss? The answer lies in a series of catastrophic events that reshaped life on Earth. During the Jurassic period, rising temperatures and volcanic activity triggered oceanic anoxia, massive dead zones where oxygen levels plummeted. Shallow water predators died by the millions, entire ecosystems collapsed. But the ancestors of the vampire squid discovered something remarkable. They could survive where nothing else could. By descending deeper into waters other creatures couldn't tolerate, they found refuge. And slowly, over tens of millions of years, they evolved away from their predatory heritage and became something entirely new, something impossible.
By 30 million years ago, fossil evidence from Hungary shows that vampire squids had fully committed to life in the deep, dwelling in oxygen minimum zones that would suffocate any other cephalopod. When the asteroid struck at the end of the Cretaceous period and killed the dinosaurs, shallow water species perished in droves, but the vampire squid, safe in its deep ocean sanctuary, barely noticed. While the world above burned and the food chains collapsed, it simply continued drifting through the darkness, feeding on the debris that fell from above.
Today, the vampire squid lives at depths between 2,000 and 3,000 feet, inhabiting a discrete layer of the ocean called the oxygen minimum zone. Here, oxygen saturation drops as low as 3%, levels that would kill any other complex organism in minutes. The pressure at these depths is crushing, over 100 times greater than at the surface. The temperature hovers between 2 and 6 degrees Celsius, just above freezing, and the darkness is absolute, a blackness so complete that the human mind struggles to comprehend it. Yet the vampire squid not only survives here, it has mastered this alien world in ways that seem to violate the laws of biology.
Its body has transformed into something that barely resembles its ancestors. The muscular frame has been replaced with gelatinous tissue, soft and yielding like a jellyfish. This tissue is saturated with ammonium ions, which match the density of seawater perfectly, allowing the creature to float effortlessly without expending energy. While other squids must constantly swim to maintain position, the vampire squid simply hangs in the water, conserving its strength in an environment where every calorie matters. Its metabolism has slowed to the lowest rate of any cephalopod. Its heart beats sluggishly. Its movements are deliberate and economical. It can go weeks, perhaps months, without feeding, drifting through the darkness like a ghost ship abandoned at sea. But perhaps its most remarkable adaptation is its blood. Unlike the red hemoglobin-based blood of fish or mammals, the vampire squid's blood is blue, powered by hemocyanin, a copper-based molecule. And this isn't ordinary hemocyanin. Through millions of years of evolution, the vampire squid's blood has become the most efficient oxygen-binding system in any cephalopod, able to extract every molecule of oxygen from water, where other creatures would suffocate. Its gills are massive relative to its body size, maximizing surface area to capture what little oxygen exists in these suffocating depths. The creature's eyes tell their own story of adaptation to the abyss. They are the largest eyes relative to body size of any animal on Earth. Enormous globular organs the size of a large dog's eyes on a body no bigger than a football. They function like biological telescopes, gathering every photon of light that exists in this near-total darkness. The optic lobes in the vampire squid's brain are similarly enlarged, dedicating enormous processing power to vision in an environment where vision should be impossible. These eyes can detect the faint bioluminescence of distant creatures, the flicker of a hunting lanternfish 100 feet away, the subtle glow of marine snow drifting through the water column.
The vampire squid's appearance only adds to its otherworldly mystique. Its color shifts depending on the angle of light, ranging from velvety jet black to deep reddish brown to pale crimson. This isn't the dramatic color-changing ability of shallow water squids. The vampire squid's chromatophores are poorly developed,
because in the lightless depths where it lives, color changing would be pointless. But red wavelengths of light cannot penetrate deep water. They're absorbed in the first 50 feet below the surface. So the vampire squid's reddish hue makes it effectively invisible in its environment, appearing as pure black against the deeper black of the abyss. Its arms are unlike those of any other cephalopod. 8 long appendages connect via a web of skin that can be spread wide like a cape or pulled tight against its body. The inner surface of this cape is heavily pigmented, darker than the outer surface, creating a cloaking effect. Along each arm runs a row of cirri, soft, fleshy spines that look like thorns but are actually sensory organs, constantly tasting the water for chemical signals. And hidden within pouches in the webbing are 2 additional appendages, long retractile filaments that can extend to twice the length of the creature's body. These filaments are the remnants of the 10th pair of arms that the vampire squid's ancestors once possessed, now modified into delicate fishing lines. These filaments are covered in microscopic hairs, each one a cluster of sensory cells more sensitive than anything on Earth's surface. The vampire squid deploys a single filament, letting it trail through the darkness like a spider's silk, and waits. When the filament encounters something, marine snow, a drifting copepod, a fragment of jellied remains from a dead kelp, the sensory cells detect it instantly. The vampire squid doesn't chase its prey. It simply reels in the filament using specialized muscles, drawing the captured debris toward its beak. This beak, made of white chitinous material that contrasts sharply with its dark body, is the only hard structure it possesses. The squid scrapes the organic matter from its filament and consumes it, feeding on death itself. This diet of marine snow, a constant rainfall of debris from the sunlit world above, makes the vampire squid one of the ocean's most important recyclers. Every day, countless tons of dead plankton, fecal pellets, molted exoskeletons, and organic fragments drift downward through the water column. Most of this material would simply accumulate on the sea floor, but creatures like the vampire squid intercept it, consuming it and converting it into biomass. In doing so, they play a crucial role in the biological carbon pump, the process by which carbon is captured from the atmosphere and sequestered in the deep ocean. The vampire squid, this ancient ghost from the Carboniferous, helps regulate the Earth's climate in ways we're only beginning to understand. But surviving in the oxygen minimum zone requires more than just efficient feeding and metabolism. It requires defense mechanisms as sophisticated as anything evolution has ever created. The vampire squid has no ink sac. In the absolute darkness where it lives, expelling black ink would be useless. No predator would even see it. Instead, when threatened, the vampire squid deploys one of the most bizarre defense systems in nature. It turns itself inside out. The creature curls its arms up and over its body in a movement so fluid it seems impossible, inverting the web between its arms until the inner, darker surface faces outward. The cirri along its arms, which normally lie flat, suddenly stand erect, creating what looks like a field of spines. The vampire squid transforms from a drifting, gentle scavenger into something that appears dangerous, bristling with weapons. Scientists call this the pumpkin posture, or pineapple posture. In an instant, the creature has more than doubled its apparent size and changed its entire visual profile. Any predator expecting to bite into soft tissue suddenly finds itself facing an array of spikes. But that's just the beginning. If the pumpkin posture doesn't work, if the predator continues to approach, the vampire squid releases its ultimate weapon. From glands at the tips of its arms, it expels a cloud of sticky, glowing mucus filled with thousands of bioluminescent particles. In the pitch darkness, this creates an explosion of light, a fireworks display that lasts anywhere from 30 seconds to 9 minutes. The glowing cloud confuses predators, creating multiple false targets. Some particles stick to the predator's body, marking it with light, turning the hunter into the hunted. While the predator is distracted by the twinkling lights, the vampire squid performs an escape behavior that seems physically impossible. It uses its fins to jet away, accelerating to speeds of 2 body lengths per second in just 5 seconds, vanishing into the darkness as completely as if it had never existed. The creature's fins are another marvel of deep-sea adaptation. Located at the top of its body, they look like small ears, flapping constantly to propel the squid through the water. Unlike most squids that rely on jet propulsion as their primary means of movement, the vampire squid flies through the ocean, using its fins as wings. This method of locomotion is far more energy efficient than jet propulsion, crucial in an environment where food is scarce and every calorie must be conserved. Juvenile vampire squids have a different pair of fins than adults, positioned differently on their bodies. As they mature, the original fins are reabsorbed and a new pair develops in a process scientists call double metamorphosis, a phenomenon almost unknown in the animal kingdom. The vampire squid's life cycle is as mysterious as the creature itself. We know very little about how they reproduce because observing them in their natural habitat is nearly impossible. Females are larger than males and can store sperm for extended periods, waiting for the right conditions to fertilize their eggs. When they do reproduce, they release large eggs, each about 3 to 4 millimeters in diameter, directly into the water, where they drift in small clusters through the deep. These eggs are unusually large for a cephalopod, packed with yolk to give the developing embryos every advantage in the nutrient-poor deep sea. Scientists estimate that vampire squids can live for 8 years or more, an exceptionally long lifespan for such a small creature, another adaptation to an environment where reproductive opportunities are rare and every individual must maximize its chances of passing on its genes. Recent genetic studies have revealed something even more remarkable about the vampire squid. In late 2024, scientists finally sequenced its complete genome, a massive undertaking that required cutting-edge technology. What they found was astonishing. The vampire squid possesses the largest cephalopod genome ever sequenced, a staggering 11 to 14 billion base pairs. For comparison, the human genome contains only 3 billion base pairs. 62% of this enormous genome consists of repetitive elements, DNA sequences that have been copied and recopied over hundreds of millions of years without being removed. The genome has ballooned to an almost absurd size, yet the vampire squid carries this genetic baggage without apparent difficulty.
But the size of the genome isn't the most interesting discovery. What shocked scientists was the structure. The vampire squid's chromosomes retain much of the ancestral arrangement found in ancient squids. While modern octopuses have undergone extensive genomic reorganization, with DNA segments frequently fusing and moving around, the vampire squid's genome has remained largely unchanged. It's as if the creature's DNA is frozen in time, a snapshot of what early cephalopod genomes looked like 300 million years ago, before the dramatic evolutionary changes that created modern squids and octopuses. The vampire squid, in both body and genome, is a genomic living fossil, preserving secrets about the origins and evolution of all cephalopods. This discovery has transformed our understanding of cephalopod evolution. The vampire squid,
sits precisely at the interface between octopuses and squids, retaining features of both groups. It has 8 arms like an octopus, but with suckers like a squid. It has an internal gladius, a chitinous shell structure found in squids but not in octopuses. Its chromosomes are squid-like, suggesting that the last common ancestor of octopuses and squids was more squid-like than we previously thought. The vampire squid is the Rosetta Stone of cephalopod genetics, a creature that bridges the gap between 2 of the ocean's most intelligent and adaptable lineages. Despite everything we've learned, the vampire squid remains one of the most enigmatic creatures on Earth. Encounters with living specimens are vanishingly rare. Most of what we know comes from brief observations by remotely operated vehicles, submarines prowling the deep in search of other mysteries. The creatures are often damaged during capture, their delicate, gelatinous bodies unable to withstand the trauma of being netted and brought to the surface. A few have survived in aquaria for up to 2 months, long enough for scientists to observe some of their behaviors, but not long enough to truly understand them. In their natural habitat, in the crushing darkness of the oxygen minimum zone, they remain as mysterious as they were when Carl Chun first pulled them from the depths in 1898. The Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute has led much of the modern research into vampire squids, using advanced ROVs equipped with high-definition cameras and specialized sampling equipment to study them in their natural environment. These expeditions have revealed behaviors nobody predicted. Scientists discovered that vampire squids sometimes agitate bioluminescent protists in the water around them, creating subtle glows that attract larger prey. They've observed vampire squids moving with a grace and agility that seems impossible for such gelatinous creatures. They've documented the full sequence of the pumpkin posture defense and captured footage of bioluminescent mucus clouds drifting through the darkness like galaxy clusters in miniature. But for every question answered, a dozen more emerge. How do vampire squids find mates in the vast darkness? What triggers their bioluminescent displays? How do they navigate in an environment without landmarks or visible reference points? Do they have territories, social structures, communication systems we haven't detected? The creature's large eyes suggest they can see things we can't, perceive patterns in the faint bioluminescence that fills the deep ocean like stars scattered across a night sky. Their massive optic lobes suggest they're processing this visual information in complex ways, perhaps recognizing individuals, identifying predators from a distance, mapping the subtle contours of water currents and temperature gradients. The vampire squid is not endangered. It's not even rare in the traditional sense. It's found throughout the tropical and subtropical oceans of the world, wherever oxygen minimum zones exist, a band that stretches around the planet between 40 degrees north and 40 degrees south latitude. In the right conditions, they can be relatively common, but common doesn't mean understood. The deep ocean covers more than 60% of the Earth's surface, and we've explored less than 5% of it. The vampire squid shares its realm with countless other species we've never seen, ecosystems we've never mapped, phenomena we can't even imagine. For all our technology, for all our satellites and sonar and submersibles, the deep ocean remains as alien to us as the surface of Mars. And that raises uncomfortable questions. We're mining the deep sea for minerals. We're fishing in deeper and deeper waters. We're filling the ocean with noise and plastic and carbon dioxide. We're warming the planet at a rate unprecedented in millions of years. The oxygen minimum zones, where the vampire squid lives, are expanding, growing larger and more severe as ocean temperatures rise and currents shift. For now, this benefits the vampire squid, creating more habitat, more refuges where it can drift free from predators. But what happens when the zones expand too far? When the delicate balance that has existed for millions of years suddenly shifts? The vampire squid has survived multiple mass extinctions. It watched the dinosaurs die. It persisted through ice ages and greenhouse periods, continental collisions and volcanic winters. But survival in the past doesn't guarantee survival in the future. The creature staring back at us from the abyss with its blood-red cloak and enormous eyes is a messenger from the deep time of evolution. It carries within its cells the genetic memory of seas that existed before trees, before flight, before the very concept of a terrestrial ecosystem. It has witnessed in the DNA passed down through countless generations the rise and fall of entire orders of life. It exists in a place we can barely reach and struggle to comprehend, feeding on the remnants of worlds we'll never see, drifting through currents that have flowed for millions of years.
In the end, the vampire squid is neither vampire nor squid. It is something older and stranger, a reminder that life finds ways to persist in places where it shouldn't be possible. It is a ghost, a living fossil, a time capsule from an ancient world preserved in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean. And every time a remotely operated vehicle encounters one drifting through the abyss, every time we catch a glimpse of that blood-red cloak spreading in the darkness, those enormous eyes reflecting our lights back at us, we're looking into the deep past and the uncertain future simultaneously.
The ocean keeps its secrets. The vampire squid is one of them. And perhaps in a world where we believe we've discovered everything, cataloged every species, mapped every ecosystem, it's humbling to know that just a few thousand feet below the surface, in a realm of perpetual night and crushing pressure, something magnificent and strange continues to drift through the darkness, unchanged and unbothered by the chaos of the world above, a blood-red phantom from the dawn of time, surviving where nothing should survive, thriving in the void between life and death, light and darkness, knowledge and mystery. The vampire squid from hell endures, as it has for 300 million years, as it might for 300 million more, if we let it, if we're wise enough to protect what we barely understand, if we remember that the deepest mysteries are worth preserving, not just for science, but for wonder itself.